Good evening, ma'am. Welcome for our very interesting forum of Friday lectures, where we bring to you a new speaker and a new interesting topic for each Friday. I'll request the professor and head, Professor Sangeeta Menon, the Dean of School of Humanities, NIAS, to please introduce today's speaker and also the topic. Ma'am.
Namaste, madam, first of all, and thank you so much for sparing your very valuable time to be here with the National Institute of Advanced Studies.
My pleasure.
Yes, and the head of the Administration and Accounts, Mr. Soumya A, is also joining us. He's just struggling with the system to connect with the Zoom, but he will be. Also thank Preet Kona for introducing Madam to us and coordinating her lecture for this institute. And may I briefly introduce Madam Srimati Soumya Achar. She is an IRS officer of the 2003 batch, currently posted as the Additional Commissioner of Income Tax at Centralized Processing Center, Bangalore. She has vast experience in various areas of tax administration like investigation, assessment, audit, and TTS wing, along with her current stint in the Systems Directorate. She was also a part of the Business Process Reengineering Committee, which recommended the establishment of CPC way back in 2007 to 2008. She believes that technology is ushering a new era in administration in general and tax administration in specific, wherein people are getting empowered with information and new solutions are being envisaged to solve both old and new problems. An engineer by qualification, she had worked as a software engineer for a short while before qualifying for the UPSC examination with an All India rank of 125. A trained classical vocalist with a senior qualification in vocal music, her passions include singing and literature, especially Kannada literature. And she also informs us that she is a cancer survivor. So let's learn from her spirit and knowledge and experience. And once again, Madam, I cordially invite you and welcome you on behalf of our director, Dr. Shailesh Nayak of this institute, National Institute of Advanced Studies. Madam.
Thank you very much, madam, and thank you very much for having me here. It's my pleasure indeed to be with some of the best minds in this country and to be talking about a topic which is probably not so familiar with this audience because this is tax administration and tax reforms as such. So probably it's a unique opportunity for me to present something before you because this is a story of change, a story of technological upgradation, technological progress, and technology in action in the service of in the delivery of government services, which is a pioneering one and which is also worthy of emulation. So let me begin today's interaction, I would say, with a small clip, a video clip actually. So yeah, let me know please when it is visible.
It is visible, ma'am.
It's visible. Okay, thank you. Here it is. The place probably hasn't been used in about 100 years.
Right.
What are you doing?
What do you think we were going to burn?
You can't burn books.
No, absolutely not. You want to freeze to death? Friedrich Nietzsche. We cannot burn Friedrich Nietzsche. He was the most important thinker of the 19th century.
Please, Nietzsche was a chauvinist pig who was in love with his sister.
He was not a chauvinist pig.
But he was in love with his sister.
Excuse me, you guys? Yeah, there's a whole section on tax law down here that we can burn.
I guess a lot of you would have seen this movie, and maybe you would have noticed the scene also, but then it wouldn't be so, I mean, drastic if you are, I mean, it wouldn't be such a punching one if you are, unless you're a tax person. So that's the kind of challenge that every taxman, a tax administrator goes through. The basic, animosity, it's not animosity, a negative reaction when one hears about taxes. So what is it that makes it so sorry, I think it's still playing. 1 second, I'm very sorry about this. Yeah, once. Let me close it. Some issue here. Can you see my screen?
No, ma'am.
1 second. I'm unable to open Zoom either. It is. Second. Straight. Yeah. So the challenge before every tax administrator is that how do you make taxation simple? How do you make it people friendly? How do you make it? How do you make the people involved in the whole process of tax administration? How do you deliver better tax services? Taxation per se is a very complex matter because we try to achieve too many things at once, frankly, because it's not only garnering the resources for the government, but it is also for the sake of actors of the government. And am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So the growth in the different sectors of the
Ma'am, we don't see the sharing. 1 second.
I think, ma'am.
Yeah, I think she.
I think due to network issue, some bandwidth issue.
She's here. I don't see her.
Ma'am, you are unmuted, ma'am. Should I share the screen on your behalf, ma'am?
Is it okay now? Is it?
Yeah, it is better, ma'am.
Ma'am, we have an option. If you want us to share the screen, we could do the same. If you want that to happen. If you feel there are issues with the bandwidth.
No, I don't have issues with the bandwidth as such, but there is something which has happened in the Zoom link as such. There is some small issue. I don't know what that is. Can I share my screen again? Can you just?
Yes, definitely.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible? Okay, fine. So let me put it on the presentation mode. Is it on the presentation mode for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, so the kind of difficulties that one faces as a tax person is that there is not only the challenge of delivering the services and administering tax properly, but it is also the negativity that is associated with the whole process unless the person is able to do things in a simple manner, in a transparent manner, unless the whole process is transparent and we are able to deliver things on time, as well as not making the person feel the pinch of the whole process. So to be fair to the department was a very, very early starter way back in the late 90s. There was some system of processing which was there. That is, as you very well know, mathematics and tax go kind of hand in hand. So people had attempted individual softwares and had come up with some small solutions for this particular problem of processing. processing is a very major job in tax administration because it is to determine the right amount of tax that the person should have paid according to his income. We classify income into 5 different categories. That is income from salary, from house property, from other sources, from capital gains, and business and profession. So these are the 5 heads, and the persons who are supposed to be filing the income tax returns are classified into individuals, small tax payers, corporates, association of persons, body of individuals, and so on. So for each person, according to the taxation structure regime of that particular year, so there are various deductions or various things that are available, and each person has to follow his own structure of taxation, which is applicable to his category of people, certain strata of people. Why so? Because as I told you earlier, we strive to achieve certain things out of taxation, that is, which also includes equitable distribution of resources throughout the country. And India being such a vast and diverse nation with varied needs, the challenges are always overwhelming. So let me come back to the late 90s, wherein we had these individual places where processing was going on. Then this department felt that there was a need to have a single software system. So in the early 2000s, large-scale computerization took place, and now also processing was taking place, but at different places. That is, the same software, same returns which were being filed manually. Say that those filed in Mysore were getting processed in Mysore, those filed in Bangalore, Delhi in Delhi, and so on and so forth. So what were the challenges in those? First thing was that it's a very distributed model, but still it requires the same setup to be there with every AO, to have the same kind of a network. We are talking about almost 20 years back. So having a proper network also was a huge issue. Say something which existed in Bangalore is not the same as what it would exist in Hubli or say Bidar or some such place. So then it is a non-uniform process of data entry because it depends on the person who's actually doing the data entry, and economy of scale is not possible, and the data entry, of course, is prone to human errors. So these were the challenges. So department rightly observed these, and it undertook a vast exercise of business process engineering. And I'm glad to share that I was also a part of this exercise as a young officer way back in 2007-8. And an external consultant was hired to do this job. And the BPR committee put forth its recommendations and said that, look, you're doing a lot of non-core functions, which is basically the processing. One should be focusing on investigation and scrutiny, which are the core processes of the government, which is going beyond the obvious return. That is the return, whether it is actually whatever you have stated in the return of income, whether everything is okay, whether you have hidden something, whether there are some additional sources of income, whether you have done some intelligent tax planning, so on and so forth. Our resources should have been utilized in those areas, whereas all the intelligent resources were now being used in this mundane routine job called processing, which could have been done with a far lesser amount of people. So having recognized this, the government in 2009 set up Centralized Processing Center, CPC, at Bangalore. So, I mean, whatever I said is again replicated here. And the other problem is represented here, rather. So the other problem that was there with the system is also the concept of matching of tax payments. Way back then, part of the payments were being done electronically, part of the payments were done through banks in the physical format. So the matching of tax payments also used to be a huge challenge. And also the concept of issuing Form 16s. Most of you are aware of Form 16s and 16As. Form 16s are those issued by your respective deduction DDO, that is the person who makes the deduction. He would give you a Form 16 at the end of the year saying that this is the amount of tax deducted. This, according to me, is your salary and your your income, and this is the Form 16, which forms the basis for most of the salaried people to file their tax returns. Even those were physical. Many a times we had come across situations where people were actually falsifying records, forging documents, but due to the manpower required to examine all these kind of minor thefts, it was virtually impossible to go behind each and every person. And the system was not completely electronic. So if we are talking about tax payments, we are talking about tax payments almost to the tune of, right now we stand at about 10 lakh crores of tax. So the tax payments to the tune of such a huge number had to be matched, and proper credit had to be given in the returns. So this was way back then, it was probably around 2 lakh to around 2 to 3 lakh crores though, but still it was a big number. So what was introduced post this was CPC Bangalore, wherein still the returns were physical. 2009 when things started, only the company returns were electronic. The things were physical. So the returns were physical. They came physically to CPC. These returns were then digitized, and they were sent across to a storage location after doing proper data entry. This again did not solve the problem fully though, because the returns which were coming in the manual fashion were a really large number. So what the department initiated, because e-filing was optional for individuals, most of the individuals way back in 2009, also 2009, 10, 11, e-filing was optional. And only corporates and big entities, big business people and people who were being audited, e-filing was made compulsory. So nearly 50 to more than 60% of the returns were still coming in a manual fashion. Along with the return, we had to receive, even now we receive a single pager called as an acknowledgement or an ITRV. Those of you who have filed the returns would know that there is something called an ITRV, which has to be physically signed. This is basically a one sheet acknowledgement, wherein you say that you have verified it and you have found that the whole income that you have stated is correct. That had to come in the physical manner, no matter whether you have filed electronically or physically. So that was one part of the thing, and the return itself was manual. So then the department felt the need for e-filing, and in 2013, complete e-filing was ushered in. This was also not done at one shot, though the need was recognized way back. Slowly, the department made it compulsory in 2008 for company returns, and then for audited individuals in 2009-10, and for various categories of individuals above certain limits from 11, 12, and 13. From 13 onwards, mostly now, it has been complete e-filing, except for a small category of citizens, that is super senior citizens whom we call with no refund. Those people can file a manual return. So why e-filing? Because no long queues, total reduction in human interfaces, which means that huge transparency, very little challenge, very little chances of corruption. Of course, things get faster because it is entirely e-filed. The data is all electronic. The data is all electronic and no digital, the data entry, entirely digital. So no data entry needs to be made. And of course, each and every person is treated in a similar manner. It is not dependent on the whims and fancies of any single person or any single officer. So okay, that is one problem solved. So now we have the other problem of, I wouldn't say that it's a problem as such, it is a problem of growing numbers rather. Because this one page ITRV that I just told you, wherein it is the acknowledgement of the return filed, that is still able, that you are still able to file manually. Because this is again a vast country, so people would be, and people really do not have so much of financial literacy or do it yourself approach. Even those who are financially literate do not really have a DIY. So the people rely on professionals to actually file their returns. So in those cases, as well as for many other reasons, there is a single page acknowledgement, which is in the physical format called the ITRV. So the ITRV operations itself at CPC is a huge exercise. I wouldn't go through this entire, it would suffice to say that it would involve the process of scanning, storing, and moving it to a secure location, because all these documents are to be retrieved at any point in time if asked by the court or any other authority. So these are all important documents. So this is sent to a very secure storage location. So this is again the process which is getting explained here, how we affix the barcode labels, and this is completely a manual process. We started with about, so I'll come back to the slide. We started with about 91 lakhs of ITRVs way back in 2010-11, and the numbers grew to as much as 3 crore 41 lakhs in 2016-17. So handling 3 crore 41 lakhs physically, like each of the document has to be physically taken, then scanned, put in a particular place, bunched, barcoded, and stored. So this is the kind of challenge that we started facing again. So though ITRV, though EVC, what we call as the electronic verification code, was available right from day one, not many people took to it because I guess digital literacy as such was not so much back then. And also mobiles and OTPs and, all these platforms and everything, all these services and everything were not so common back then. So you can see that there was a gradual growth, and somewhere I think we reached the tipping point and we have been able to reverse the taxpayer behavior. And I would consider this as a huge success because this has not been done through coercion. This has been done through, repeated campaigns, repeated, ways of telling the people that through various kinds of campaign, including social media campaign, saying that what is the advantage of doing an EVC versus ITRV. For us also, it is that much less of a trouble because we don't need to store these records. It directly comes into our system. Electronically verified code means there is even the postage is much lesser for us to send back the details and everything. So in every way, it's eco-friendly. It's a huge amount of paper that we are saving, a huge amount of packaging material that we are saving. So you can see that the tipping point was probably reached last year, wherein 3 crore 94 lakhs was received through electronic verification and 2 crore 30 lakhs was through ITRV. So if I just go back to the previous slide, you will understand the process, you will understand the complexity of the process involved. So because it is completely manual, this part of the process is completely manual because this is just a one-pager, an acknowledgement, and I still have to go through so much to keep this because this is a document which is to be stored for posterity. And retrieval, at the same time, we have ensured that the retrieval process is completely transparent and the retrieval process is fast. That within 24 hours, any of these documents, it is a single page written, say, submitted by Mira, way back in 2015, we can retrieve it within 24 hours. That is the kind of, out of these close to 30 crore data that we are storing, we can retrieve that particular single piece of paper within 24 hours. That is the kind of record management that goes in here. So now if I come to, I wouldn't want to burden you too much with this whole processing stuff. Suffice to say probably that what we do is a simple job of comparing the tax that has been paid with the tax that is supposed to be paid. That is, if you have a certain income, have you paid commensurate tax? And is it available in the system for me to match? It is nothing physical here again. There is a TDS CPC, which is located in Ghaziabad, near Delhi, which does the processing of these TDS payments. So all the TDS records which are filed by your deductor or any deductor, in your case, it would be mostly salary or some kind of professional fees. In other cases, it could be contracts or brokerages. There are about 30 different heads under which TDS can be deducted. All that data is filed by the deductor, as well as the processing of that TDS payment takes place. We take that data and match it with the return data, saying that yes, this is the TDS payment, and this is your claim of TDS, and this is the TDS payment that has happened, and we are going to give credit for it. Along with it, there are other methods of paying tax, like advance tax, self-assessment tax, regular tax. All those are also matched, and finally we arrive at a conclusion whether you need to pay us something, which is a demand, or we have to give you something, which is a refund. So getting a refund used to be such a complex process in the past decade. That is maybe pre-2010, it used to be such a difficult task. Suppose a certain place had a good work culture, say it was a metropolitan city with a good work culture, you would receive your refunds within 6 months to 1 year. Suppose if it was a smaller place, or even if it's a bigger place with a lack of work culture, then you would have to wait at least for a year or two, definitely, for the refund of the taxes, of the excess taxes that you would have paid. A lot of people who are in their 50s would definitely agree with this statement, and they would know the kind of difference that CPC has made in the lives of taxpayers. So now, say last year or so, the time of processing, we had reduced it to about 30 to 45 days. And from this year onwards, we have rolled out something called CPC 2.0, wherein we are giving out refunds literally in 48 hours. 24 to 48 hours is what we are processing the refunds, the timeline for processing of refunds. So after this processing, there is another activity which is performed basically, which is posting it in my records. So basically, if I just compare it to your ledger, I have to post it somewhere and keep it in my account saying that this is the amount of demand, this is the amount of refund. Earlier, most of these things used to be manual or on different distributed systems, whereas now it is all a single point wherein we keep this entire data, a single point accounting database, a single place of accounting. So this again is a little technical. That is, how do we do this? We are able to achieve this kind of timelines because there is something called a validation rule at the time of upload. Suppose if I compare it to your, say, any registration form as such, there are certain mandatory fields. Unless you fill up that field, you are not allowed to file that particular this thing, whatever page that you're looking at. But here, the difference is only that I am performing a complex operation, complex mathematical operation most of the time. So for instance, say it is 80C. I am checking whether you have claimed more than 1,50,000 available. 80C is the deduction which most salaried taxpayer, most individuals claim because they have invested in, say, LIC, they have invested in Provident Fund or some such scheme. And the available limit is about 1,50,000. Then we check whether it is more than that or less than that, or then we allow the person. If it is more, then we put a check there itself saying that it is not, this is the amount to which it will be restricted. So these kind of validation rules, depending upon the form type, could go up to around 3,000 rules, which are performed right on the go at the time that you are uploading. Then, of course, once it comes into the system, we have business rules, wherein we implement the whole of the Income Tax Act with respect to processing. And that is done very well in advance before the returns are filed. And the rules engine, which is the whole software system, takes these new rules and processes the return. And why the complexity of tax laws? As I told you already in my probably the initial part of the presentation, each year the Income Tax Act changes. It undergoes a significant amount of modification depending upon the needs of the economy at that point in time. These changes most of the time are unavoidable, and most of the time to facilitate the taxpayer himself or to contribute to the growth of the whole ecosystem. As CPC, we have to be ready to just take in these things and implement it. So these, as soon as the changes are notified, we do an impact analysis, see what all changes the software is going to undergo, then deploy it, test it, just like probably any other manufacturing system. Here it's slightly different because we're not manufacturing anything, we are actually administering the tax regime. So you can see here again, just to give you statistics. So we have grown from the year 2010-11 to 19-20 from 1 crore returns, 1 crore of e-file returns to about 7 crore of e-file returns. And the system, which was built in 2009-10, took the load till 2019-20, which is a good 10 years. Of course, a lot of system enhancements happened, a lot of process enhancements happened. We have re-engineered so many processes, but the same 60 odd personnel from ITD, the same meaning, the same strength of 60 odd personnel from ITD, and so around 500 odd people from the service provider. We call the software service provider here as a MSP, which is a managed service provider, because I mean, to put it simply, we are always at their neck. We are supposed to oversee what they're doing, and we have to closely monitor and manage what they're exactly doing. So it's a managed service provider concept, it's a PPP. So the same system which was built took the load all the way till 1920, till the new system has come up in 2021. We are still facing a lot of challenges, of course, because a new system has come in, but as is with everything, change is the order of the day, change is the thing, we have to adapt. And that is what we are looking forward to, more challenges, I would say. So we have been able to process, as you could see, like more than 7 plus 6 plus 5. I mean, it's around again 20-30 crores of returns over the past 10 years. Why this operation is so complex? Because again, because of the taxpayer behavior. As Indians, we believe doing things at the last day, last moment. I think Preet will be smiling right now, because my abstract went on the very last day that he gave me a deadline on, and also my presentation also. So most of us, while filing returns, also unfortunately exhibit this behavior. So the returns that are filed on the very last day this year was for the individual taxpayers. For, of course, the audited individuals, it is still available. The time is still available. So the return of incomes filed on the last day is about 31 lakhs. So that gives you a return of income filed per minute of 73, on which we are performing validation operations and taking in the return every single minute, along with it comparing it with a document called 26AS, which is also the data of all the taxes that have been deducted with respect to that person, so on and so forth. And I'm proud to say that last year it was 49 lakhs and this year it's 31 lakhs, which we have handled on the last day, and has been handled. The system has handled it successfully without any breakdowns. So the returns processed at CPC, initially we used to process only certain categories of returns. So the person and the other returns used to be processed by the assessing officers, meaning the officers in the field. But now CPC virtually processes the entire gamut of returns, which is about 99.98% of all returns filed electronically. All returns are filed electronically. 99.98% of all returns filed are processed at CPC. So last year, we have touched a count of 6.65 crore returns. So you'd be wondering, where is this gap of that? There I probably showed you 7 crores and here I'm talking about 6.65. So the difference is that once a return comes into our basket, many a times there are revised returns. However, each return is, though it is counted as another return, but for the sake of processing, that the revised return is taken up and not the original return if it is already not being processed. That's why the gap. So another aspect of quality, we were just talking about quantity all the while till now. Then what about the quality? What is the quality of processing? So the departmental expectations have kept changing. The Act has kept changing. The numbers have kept on growing, but the amount of rectifications initiated. Rectification means that here, to be specific, so motor rectification means that I realize that there is a problem with respect to the processing that I have done. Maybe I did not give a certain credit to the taxes paid. Maybe I did not take a certain field and add it up properly in the return. Maybe I overlooked a particular schedule. So due to any of these reasons, possibly due to or a flag or whatever might be the reason, any of these reasons, so motor rectification is initiated. As you can see from the graph, the numbers have kept falling, and mostly, though it looks a bit crest and trough kind of a thing, but still we have managed to keep it under 2% or 2.5% over a number of years, though the number of returns have kept on increasing due to the tight quality control that we tight quality control measures that we employ. Because after the processing of each and every category of return and further subcategory of return, there is an elaborate process of quality control which happens. Even at the beginning of the building of the business rule itself, it is discussed and various views are taken, and then only things are formulated. Along with this, we have an elaborate QC which is performed at the end of it. So this also reflects in the number of grievances received year on year. Of course, 2017 and 18 was a little bit of a difficult year because we introduced a lot of other things in processing. We, instead of doing a plain, simple vanilla processing, we introduced a lot more of the actions which were being performed hitherto by the assessing officer, by the jurisdictional assessing officer, into the processes of CPC itself. So that is due to that there was a bit of an increase in grievances, but now most of these things have settled down. People have also understood the implication of not filling the correct data or not having the correct comparisons with respect to the audit report and so on and so forth. So things have mostly settled down from this year is what I would like to presume. Then what about the communication? The communication that used to exist before, say about a decade back, and now. Earlier, the interaction was only through the human interface. Now we have a call center, we have an email facility, an SMS, online portal. Online portal, you can actually see the status of your return, see whatever has happened to the whole life cycle of that return. Then, of course, there is always the old-time post, which is also a mode of communication that we accept. So here I just like to emphasize the fact that how things have changed. So there has been a 99% growth in the past decades from paper ITRs to e-returns, and then increasing taxpayer base from about 7 crores in 2019-20 to 2024-25. We are expecting it to be 14 crores, but I'm not sure whether Corona has actually set us back. Hopefully, we should be there. Let us see. And then the reduction in the number of rectification requests. So all this has been managed by a very intricate process of management of the service provider by the income tax department. Of course, it's a partnership, and it's a complete it's a complete partnership wherein we are in the position to guide them, and they are supposed to execute whatever we are saying to the T. And once that is done, if there are any issues or failures, then they're again examined, and each process is evaluated, and the process improvement is a constant thing at the CPC. So now we have a lot of other things on the anvil actually. So along with the traditional communication channels, we have a chatbot which is going to come up. We have an integrated communication module, which means that wherever you might lodge a complaint, everything is going to flow back to one single integrated platform. And there is going to be a whole history of your entire grievance that is going to be maintained. Of course, the larger thing is that there are going to be no grievances, hopefully. So if there are any, they're going to be actually having a track and a proper history. Even now we keep a history, but then we do not have it across platforms. Now all the platforms, like whether it's the call center, mail, SMS, chatbot, whatever platform that you are going to come on, it's all going to be integrated into one. We are planning for a mobile app also. So these are the various things on the anvil. As you can see, again, this is a slide on the number of returns received and other things, the kind of improvements that have happened over the years. So one interesting point here that I'd like to stress upon is also the fact that how much of paper that we are saving, amount of grieving that has happened. The communication sent by post, as you can see, has reduced drastically. And it is nearly the same amount that we are sending way back. That is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th column that if I can draw your attention to. That is in 2019-20 also, we have kept it at the same level. Whereas the communication by email and SMS has shot up all the way. And the same is the case with the electronic verification, which I spoke to you earlier. So electronic verification can be done by 5 to 6 modes, including the Aadhaar OTP. So Aadhaar OTP has been a big shot in the arm for us. Acceptance of Aadhaar OTP by the people has led to the ITRV decline, so which is a very good trend. And eventually, it's a very eco-friendly measure. So if I actually take you through the call center journey, then it initially started with just 2 advisors and was increased to 18. But now the amount of the calls that we receive is quite substantial, and there are nearly 300 people who are attending to various taxpayer grievances like refund status, rectification status, and any other issues. Yeah, this is something which probably I would, this is just, I'm not going to explain the slide, but I'm just going to keep it as a background rather. And let me talk to you about CPC 2.0, which is the upcoming facility that we are going to provide. Part of it is already in action. Some of you might have received your refunds within a week, within 48 hours, within 15 days, so on and so forth. But there's also the other part which we are still rolling out, which is the mobile taxpayer platform, integrated communication platform, and many other changes, ability for the taxpayer to see all his history on his portal. And along with, of course, the associated thing with this whole thing is it has to be completely secure. So with all the security features that can be provided and are present in the current day environment, so those will all be provided. So how are we planning to achieve this? This is through a complete overhaul and complete new software system that we have brought in last year, which has enabled us to do this. And of course, as with any new thing, we really had a tough year last year. But the good part was throughout the Corona period, we were able to work because the VPN, the WebEx, and all the other things were on. And since everything is software related, not a single day work stopped. And we were able to roll out this particular part of the particular CPC 2.0 in action. So you're going to see a complete improvement in the services of the CPC. Over the years, it has evolved into a single point processing engine and accounting database. This is one of its kind. Mainly, I would like to emphasize on this point because even in the United States, it takes about 40 days to 45 days for the returns to get processed in many a times. This year, if I'm not wrong, I read an article which said that the return processing is going to get delayed because of certain issues due to Corona. So such a thing has not probably happened at CPC so far. So we have kept up our timelines. We have kept up our promises to the taxpayer. And being the second largest processing country, that is, in terms of statistics, probably only US processes more number of returns than what we do. And of course, their resource levels are different compared to ours. However, we are no less. We have been able to put everything into action. And this new CPC 2.0 project, which we are talking about, which is seamless processing, is going to be a reality in the true sense in the next 5 to 6 months. That is what we are looking at, which is 100% of pre-filled returns. Though this year we don't expect 100% of pre-filled returns. That is ultimately our objective. That would be the 100% pre-filled returns, total error-free returns, and error-free returns would happen if we are able to put all the upload level validations and a single day processing. If we are able to seamlessly integrate across all enforcement agencies, then the taxpayer compliance is going to be better. Real-time data exchange with other agencies, if we are able to do the data exchange part, then it is going to be another huge step, because there is no way that Malya would probably escape to another country or something else of that kind would happen, because the data exchange is complete across different enforcement agencies, and whatever is required by a certain agency, whatever information is required by a certain agency can be immediately provided. So that is the day we are looking at. We are in the midst of so many changes. Like everything with technology, things are changing more and more. And I think we are one department wherein we have embraced the technology so much that technology has become probably the buzzword in the department right now. We have also, if I have to talk about things outside CPC, there is the faceless assessment scheme which has been envisaged, that is even for the scrutiny or the investigation into the files. It is no longer a face-to-face interaction with the officer. It is all going to be based on the documents that one is going to submit, and so on and so forth. So there's a sea change in the way the Income Tax Department India is absorbing technology and implementing technology. So I would definitely say that we are miles ahead of many, many other agencies and departments. So true to that, we have also got a few accolades in our kitty. That is, we have got the National E-Governance Gold Award, and the first entity in Asia to be awarded ISO 15489 for record management services, that record management services being the ITRV management services. And we are also compliant with ISO 27001. So the 2.0 project was approved about 1.5 years back by the Union Cabinet with an outlay of about 5,000 odd crores, 5,320 crores. So we are on this path for the new India and the new taxpayer, for all of you to be specific, for all the young minds to be specific. We would want the entire young population to contribute, to be a part of the change, to be a proud taxpayer. And we at the CPC and the Income Tax Department are here to promote the culture of tax payment and welcome the taxpayer with more and more facilities and rewards. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam, for that very elaborate, exhaustive, and yet, I think, simple to understand the complexity in which your office functions. And I think any Indian is proud of CPC and the Income Tax Department itself in this country. And it's just amazing to see how this department works. And I will read out a few questions and perhaps also ask a few people to make some comments. But first, may I ask a question that at some point you said thousands of rules are there, and every now and then you add to the rules. So it's amazing how, however it is automated, there is also a human interface which works to understand the errors or to understand the particular unique needs and thinking of people. So how do you bring in this people and the digital tools together? So that's amazing. And that's number one. And number two is to run a system so complex like this, I'm sure there's a people management which is behind. And I see that everything is so quietly done, and that also shows the excellence. So what are the secrets of the people management behind this amazingly successful department? Thank you.
First thing, I think this is somewhere in the department, this used to be there somewhere in the culture of the department itself, that we used to be more action oriented. Nowadays, because of social media and more, media, this thing that we are seeing more. But otherwise, income tax department has always been a silent worker. We always believed in whether it is investigation or whether it is delivery of taxpayer services. We have always been doing that without coming into the limelight. So this has been in the DNA. First point is that. Second is the work culture that has been built up over a number of years. Bangalore being the place chosen for this, I mean, I'd be slightly partial to this fact. Bangalore being a place chosen for this, this is a place which is very cosmopolitan, which has an excellent work culture, where work is probably put above everything else. And also we have an access to various kinds of information that is all around. So we have a lot of people who are actually grounded from the beginning itself and who don't come with the airs of being, yes, I'm an officer. It's more from the culture of, yes, I am a change maker, I'm a doer. So that is the part of the work culture which exists in CPC, to be specific. So that, and the second thing is there have been certain number of people, about 2 to 3 or 4 people, who have guided the CPC right from day one. These people have been there since its birth, I would say. So they have understood, they have acquired a certain amount of software knowledge. And similar is the case with the MSP, which is the Infosys. People have also been on the project for about, some of them have been on the project for about 10 years, which puts them in the unique position to understand the income tax domain. So the combination of these two has been really working well for us. And also the fact that there is a certain amount of belief in the system, that the processes have been very well designed, and there is no chance of misuse in the system as such. So that also gives a certain amount of confidence before people start working on things. So it is if I have to compare it, I would say that it's a 2-story house, very well built with a very good foundation. So building further on top of that has never been a challenge. So because of that. So once your beginning is right, I think everything is right. And of course, there are a few people right there in Delhi also who manage this project really, really well. And it requires, I would say, kind of a very close monitoring, micro monitoring, which has helped the whole thing. Which is why we are not heard, we are rather seen. The effects of the work is seen.
Yes, absolutely. I was about to say that you are never heard. I mean, nobody talks about, or no one comes and said, I did this or I did that. So it also shows an excellent team culture. And I think, perhaps as you rightly said, there is already a foundation, a fundamental culture. And to build things over that perhaps is not a huge challenge, but it's again an extension of your team efforts, which is ongoing. There are a couple of questions. First, I think I'll ask Mr. Navin, as you have shared this question. If you are there, would you like to ask your question very briefly? Mr. Navin. Mr. Navin, please. Are you there? I see you there. Can you come over and ask your question so that we know that
I
you have
am,
a face?
Yeah, I'm unmuting him. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you show your video, please, if possible?
Am I audible?
You're audible, but not seeable.
Yeah, there's a bit of a bandwidth constraint on my end.
Okay. Maybe perhaps you should introduce yourself and then
Yeah,
ask your question
sure.
briefly.
Yeah, I'm Navin. I was a graduate from IISc Bangalore, and I've been associated with, I've been attending rather NIAS events for about 6 to 8 years now, and it's wonderful to see that they bring in a lot of interesting speakers, very knowledgeable speakers with all and with spanning a wide variety of interests. So
Thank you.
currently, I work as a machine learning and artificial intelligence specialist with Shell, yeah, so that's a brief introduction on my end. So I just wanted to understand. Thanks first of all for this elaborate overview of what's happening. Been filing my returns for a while now, and I do see how it's become a lot more easier and simpler compared to what my father used to do. And I've been able to help him with some of these of late. So my question is, that you did mention that there's a lot of scrutiny that goes on. I mean, there's a lot of investigation and scrutiny that happens. So I just wanted to understand what are the reference document or documents that are used by the investigating officers, and if possible, a link, so that it's also so given the fact that this generation is a bit more digital savvy and financially literate, we would find it beneficial to go and look it up ourselves, just for that thing. Thanks, ma'am.
Sure. Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from with AI and ML and everything. So the first thing that you've asked is that we do a lot of investigation and scrutiny. What I said exactly was that spares us, this whole automation process spares us a lot of time for investigation and scrutiny. It's not that we do a lot of investigation and scrutiny, because over the years, we have developed a culture of believing the taxpayer. The department's culture has been that to believe the taxpayer, and we take about only 0.5% of the returns for scrutiny. Last year, it was 0.42% of returns for the scrutiny. Out of 7 crores, it's just 0.42%. And the picking up of scrutiny again is totally automated. It is not with CPC, it is not with anybody. There is another entity which is there at a different place. And the technology being used includes all the fields that you just talked about. So it has a lot of intelligent tools to process this, process in the sense that to examine this information. A lot of data analytics is run on this. And then the returns are picked up for scrutiny. And this is not known to anybody in the department. It is only known to a very, very specific set of people as to what are these kind of rules over which it runs. So this is not a public document as such. To be fair, to answer your question, we look into the data of all the other agencies with whom you might have interacted with. That is, suppose you had a shared transaction which you did not disclose. Suppose you had an overseas account which you did not disclose. These would be the typical reasons due to which your case would be investigated further. Or something which is obvious, which has been missed out, or something in your return which you are not, probably carrying forward properly to the next year. Or so these kind of, sometimes it could be simple errors. Sometimes it could be an information which is from a totally different agency or within your own return or in the previous return. So any of these could become the reason for the selection of scrutiny, but the actual reason is not known, and it is known only to a specific set of people, and this is completely automated again, which is not done at CPC. That's a different arm.
Right. Thank you so much, madam. And thank you, Mr. Navin, for sharing your question.
Ma'am,
yes.
Just one.
Yeah, can I just get back to you a little later, or if it is, unless it is related to what you're asking?
Yeah, related to what I just asked.
Yeah, please make it brief, please.
Yes, please. Ma'am, so my other this thing was that when I meant these documents, etc. So, for instance, there are companies like mine which offer employee share purchase plans. So these kinds of details related to taxation, etc., aren't available to us that easily. I mean, even the taxation link, we'll have to go round and round to find where it is. So that's also another intent of why I just asked, like some reference document where all these rules, even the IT department thinks, a link would be helpful here. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks for the opportunity.
We would definitely look into this, but then IT department is not supposed to give any advice. That is also one of our mandates. So we do not advise people on tax planning or anything related to tax of that, unless it's a very simple question of whether what is the percentage on which I'm going to be taxed on my salary. So something of that sort we can help you with. But other than that, specifics of the planning or specifics of the thing, we can't help you on. That is also the mandate of the department. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. May I request Dr. G. Parthasarathi to briefly introduce you and then share your question, which perhaps a common question for many.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
loud and clear.
Yes,
thank you. I am G. Parthasarathi. I'm an INSA senior scientist working at NIAS as adjunct professor. My question is, first, let me congratulate you. It's a beautiful talk, very useful, timely talk. And every week I get 2 mails from income tax department. I'm a regular taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
And every week, 2 to 3 mails I get. And my auditor says all junk. Don't worry. Sometimes they say you take refund, you click here, like that. A lot of spam mails comes. I don't do anything like that. I always consult the auditor.
Correct.
How it is happening? Because of you are having so much of the call centers involved in IT department. If it is purely government, these things would not have happened. Now, because the call center, there are many emails comes. I'm sure many people would be getting that. Almost 2 to 3 mails per week. But you cannot even reply them back.
I understand, and I think it's better not to click on any links.
Yes.
These are typical phishing mails,
Yes,
on which neither the department nor any other person has any control over. These have to be reported by the people. You have to keep on reporting that this is phishing and this is spam. Then
Madam,
you can report it as spam to you can mark it as spam to your service provider. Yeah, that you please do, because these are typically phishing mails. They have absolutely no relation to CPC. They have absolutely no relation to the call center. They have nothing to do. So the proper emails which come from CPC would have ITD CPC in them and also have a gov.in. So please look up that. If it is anything else, it is definitely spam. Please don't click on anything. Don't do anything with it. These are all, those fraud schemes where you might end up losing some money or something.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think, and also I think time is ebbing and I don't want to keep Madam waiting for too long. So perhaps we'll take a few more minutes, but before that, once again, I welcome Madam on behalf of our director. Perhaps the next time we will have him also meet you. But today we have Mr. Srinivasa Aital P. That's his full name because we have to be accurate with his name as well. He is the foundation for the admin and accounts of this institute, of National Institute of Advanced Studies.
Right.
So, and he works very quietly and everything goes fine for me. He has a question.
Great to hear that.
Yeah, everything goes fine. So I thought it would be nice to have some words from him. I don't know whether he has a question or perhaps only some words of appreciation. Mr. Srinivasa Aital.
Thank you. I must first thank you for arranging this wonderful talk. I think a lot of questions which were answered during the lecture itself. I don't have any question, but all appreciation to the department and all related people to making this e-filing successful. I've been filing since last 15-20 years. I know how it has changed drastically. I mean, I helped people, and particularly whether we don't even have to go and stand in a queue or submit a hard copy by post, and everything is online. Refunds are pretty fast. That is another good thing. I used to think all this, how not lakhs, crores of, I think, I'm sure. So how it is getting processed. So after listening to you, I somewhat understood, hopefully. So I don't have any question. And another important thing, we can even retrieve the data. See, if I want to see 5 years back what I have filed, or what was my salary, or what was the income, I think that is also possible now. I think that is another wonderful thing, and we don't have to maintain a file in the house or wherever it is. Everything is available. I think I must thank everybody. We have a senior professor, Professor N. Ramani. He used to say, I think he was involved in income tax department early stage computerization. Okay. He always used to say, he is now almost, I think, 75 plus. So he was with the ISRO, and he used to say they used to go there and help the department those days. So thank you once again. And as Professor Sangeeta Menon said, I also take this opportunity on behalf of my director to invite you to visit NIAS. I'm sure you will like to see many of the activities, the multidisciplinary research programs, what we are conducting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll convey this appreciation to the entire team. As you rightly said, it is the teamwork, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aital. And so I request Preet Kona, who introduced Madam to us, to also perhaps invite her to bring her to this institute at a later time, and so that she understands what's going on here. So thank you, Preet, once again for having Madam here to speak to us. So I think perhaps it's time for us to wind up. And anyone has a question, and I hope it's not about your personal filing, but in case if it's a larger question, please email your questions to NIAS Consciousness Program at nias.res.in, and we will forward them to Madam and get our responses to you. So thank you once again, Madam. And may I now request Meera to share a few words, who was the coordinator of our program, who was helping at the coordination and putting everything together.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you so much, ma'am, for the talk. So I think perhaps the highlight of today's talk was when ma'am very gracefully said, what we do is the simple job of, like that's how she started a sentence, and I was quite surprised to hear that from her, and how gracefully your team has been performing. That I had in my mind was, you did say that you have so many communication modules to help people to get their job done. So I was just wondering, throughout your career, have you seen any exemplary examples of civic responsibility from the citizen's side, that is, in order to what drives them to pay tax? Obviously, today's news has that the tax penalty is doubled. But apart from that, is there any psychological civic responsibility kind of examples that you must have come across in your career? And how important is that in terms of tax payment?
I think there have been many actually, but in the very recent days, I had a query with somebody wanting to pay 37 rupees of tax. I said, we don't enforce any tax demands lesser than 100, I said. I'm not even sure whether you can go ahead and pay electronically 37 rupees. So then it prompted me to actually ask, why do you want to pay this 37 rupees? And the person came up and said, see, whether it is tax or anything, I don't keep anything pending at all. I want to pay this 37 rupees because for me, my records have to be clear. And it is even if it is 37 rupees, it is my service to this nation. So in all these kind of taxpayers who have this kind of a mentality that, this mostly comes from, I would say, the smaller individuals and the salary taxpayers. And of course, not to say that the others are not honest or anything, but it is probably a little more visible in these people. And they have a sense of ownership, they have a sense of responsibility, they have a sense of pride. If we are able to bring this into everybody, right, that is the challenge. That would be the real new India that we would be looking at. So that would be a real game changer, as we say it in today's parlance, because that's the word used very often. So if we are able to do that, then things would be amazing for this country.
Thank you so much. Before we conclude, may I request Preet Kona, if you have any words to say, because I didn't ask you. You are the prime mover behind this lecture.
No, not at all. I am, first of all, very, I'm grateful to Soumya Achar to have accepted this invitation and given this, have agreed to give this talk at our institute. I'm really thankful to you, ma'am. I have no such question. I'm not yet a taxpayer. So, but it did develop a lot of, as Meera also mentioned, there's a responsibility, I'm sure, that as a citizen that I will have to pay tax, and you made it so user-friendly. There are a lot of insights we did get through this presentation. I'm sure a lot of us here, other scholars who are present, would have gotten an idea of how it functions and what is our responsibility to in the future. Thank you so much, ma'am. And yeah, over to you, ma'am.
So thank you so much once again, madam, and once again our gratitude, and we hope this is only a beginning and we will get to hear from you perhaps in more lectures. So because this is also one way we connect with the community, and community outreach is a very important mission of this institute, starting from the vision of J.R.D. Tata. So may I also request you to come back to us and perhaps to educate us with more updates about the system and more interesting developments in your department. So thank you once again.
It will be my pleasure. It will be really my pleasure, actually. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. And now may I request Niharika to wind up the meeting after she wishes to say what she would like to. As usual, Niharika Sharma has been hosting this meeting. Thank you, Niharika, as well.
Thank you, ma'am. My special gratitude to Soumya ma'am for being here and accepting our invitation for a very lucid presentation. Personally, I was surprised that I could understand all the aspects of how to pay tax and how easy it is now online. I usually see my father doing it, but now I have a confidence to do it. So thank you, ma'am, for such a great presentation, and thank you, Sangeeta ma'am, for this platform where we can bring various speakers and also very interesting topics to all our participants. So thank you everyone for tuning us with us for all Friday lectures. We'll bring to you a new speaker and a new very refreshing topic for you next Friday. So stay tuned with us. Thank you everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Niharika. And I also want to thank Mr. Srinivasa Aital, who is a very busy person who's for 1 hour with us. So that's really nice to see. Thank you, Mr. Aital, as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.